That's code.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We call this meeting the Oskaloosa City Council to order. Today is Monday, May 2nd, 2016. We'll start with the invocation by George Philbin, Youth Pastor, Fellowship Bible Church.
Please join me as we pray. Lord, we just thank you that you are all-knowing, you're all-powerful, and we're even just reminded of how limited we are in understanding of all things and making the right decision. And so I just pray for this council. I pray for the mayor and each one here. I just pray that you would give them wisdom, give them peace and what their understanding is and the decisions that they make, both tonight and in the weeks and months ahead. I just thank you for the police and fire department that serve our community. We just thank you for them. Bless them and their families. Keep them safe. But we just pray that you'd be at work in Oskaloosa, in the hearts of each one that's here. Help the people of Oskaloosa to be good neighbors, and for the government to govern well and with integrity. And that's a difficult job. And so we just pray for your grace to be upon them and their families. We thank you for their service to our community, and just pray that you'd bless their meeting tonight. We pray this in your son's name. Amen.
Thank you. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Burnett. Here. Cowger. Here. Jimenez. Here. Moore. Here. Persay.
Here.
Walling.
Here.
Yates.
Thank you. Moving into the agenda, first item up is community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns whether or not they're included on the current agenda. Community is encouraged to come and speak before the mayor and city council. Asked to keep statements brief, time limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any questions that are to be asked of the city staff, the council members, of the mayor, we ask that they be asked prior to speaking to the full council, so that way concerns can be properly researched and perhaps answered away. Comments are directed to the mayor and city council. Do we have anyone who would care to speak tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next item is the consent agenda. These are items that are routine in nature. Do I have a motion for approval? Any discussion?
Got a question. Amy can probably help me. Both sets, on the first set we're given in the packet.
You talking expenditures? Or
Yes,
what are we talking?
yes. Claims under Mid-America Energy. Who's the $10,000? Tell me that.
In America.
In the first set, because we got more in the second set.
There was one of them that says corrected. Is that the one you're asking about?
And I don't know about correction. Did I miss a note memo?
No, no. $10,000 is street lighting. $10,646.
Yes. I don't know what's that for.
The street lighting.
Okay. On the second set of monies, what's the $6,328?
Wastewater.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Moore. Yes. Persay.
Yes.
Walling.
Yes.
Burnett.
Yes.
Cowger.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item 6, this is the announcement of vacancies that we have on various boards and commissions. First is the Airport Commission, one vacancy to fill upon appointment for an unexpired term ending on December 31st, 2021. It's a 5-member board, typically meeting on the first Monday of the month. Currently, we have 4 males and no females serving, 1 vacancy. Historic Preservation Commission, we have 3 vacancies. 1 to fill upon appointment for a term ending on December 31st, 2018, and 2 vacancies for alternate members. It's a 7-member board with 2 alternate members that meets as needed. Currently 4 males until 2 females serving with 3 vacancies, 2 for alternate members. The Municipal Housing Agency, we got 1 vacancy to fill upon appointment for an unexpired currently serving with one vacancy. And on the water board, there are 2 vacancies for 6-year terms that begin on July 1st, 2016 and end on June 30th of 2022. It's a 5-member board that typically meets on the 3rd Monday of the month. Currently, we have 5 males serving.
That doesn't mean that we know that the people that are on there don't wanna serve again. It's just that their terms coming up.
Their term is up, correct. And so, yes, they can reapply for that, but so can somebody
Okay.
else.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep. Okay, getting into the regular agenda. First is item A, considering a resolution adopting proposals for the employee life and health insurance programs fiscal year 2017. Brad Reman is here from Barron's Management Group to present to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before I start, I just want to comment on one thing. I never told Amy or Mike this. Since I visited with them, your logo has come out. And that is I've gotten so many comments positive about how great it looks. It's very useful and exploring. And so just as, from a person who lives in Des Moines, come into Oskaloosa, Iowa, I want to comment that your logo is very nice. So I just thought that'd be a nice comment for you. Okay. Everybody has their packets in front of them. We're going to go through the voluntary vision, voluntary dental, the voluntary life and AD&D renewal, the group voluntary life, flexible spending account renewal, the medical renewal, and then in the back for your reference, there's the history of it. Well, easy. The voluntary vision, no change. The voluntary dental, no change. Group term life and AD&D renewal, no change in rate. The group voluntary life renewal, no change. And then the flexible spending went up 4%, but that equates to $69 a year. So there wasn't much of a change in that as well. So, any questions on any of those 6 or 5 items before we move on to the medical? All right. We've got a couple new people on the council, I see. So maybe some of this may be redundant for some of you, and some of you don't. But remember, the renewal has a specific and an aggregate insurance. The aggregate specific premium is for the first $40,000 of claims. The city is at risk on that. Anything above that is the reinsurance carrier through Wellmark is in charge of that. Now, along with that comes your aggregate insurance, and you have a cap of 125% of your expected claims. So anything under the $40,000 goes into a pool, and when that number goes above 125% of projected claims, then that is reimbursed back to the city. And I don't believe we've ever had any of those for quite some time, maybe 10 years or so. And then also you have somebody has to administer the claims. Wellmark administers the claims, and there's a cost for that. So with those 3 segments, that's how this proposal is broken down. So the first section is the Wellmark's administration, and inside that administration is the claims fee. The PBM, which is pharmacy benefit manager, is where you get your discounts on your prescriptions. Utilization review is already built into the administration with Wellmark. Network fees is where you get the discounts from your Classic Blue. When an employee goes to the hospital, they get a discount, and that's where you're paying the premium on that. So those broken down. Renewal did go up on the medical claim fee by $10 or so, and one of the reasons for that is, if those of you were on the council back when we were with First Administrators, that was a subsidiary or a company within the Wellmark, and they got out of the administration business and gave it over to the parent company, Wellmark. And then Wellmark at that point in time basically came in when we didn't want to disrupt people right away with their administration costs. So at that point in time, they matched their administration costs. And last year, if you go back and look at the renewal package, they went up slightly. And then this year, they're almost to where they should be. So that one of the reasons that went up from $30.64 to $40.74. The PBM fee in the past was $60. Go ahead.
If I can interrupt.
Yeah.
So the medical claim fee, what do we buy for that $40.74?
Administer the claims, the utilization review.
In the utilization.
And utilization. That's
Okay.
included in those 2 things. As it says, utilization review fee is included in the claims fee as well. Okay? Any other questions?
Not yet.
Okay. Then we get to the PBM, which last year's they charged 68 cents per covered member. So if you have a family of 4, you take the 68 cents and times it by 4. This following year, they've changed PBMs to Caremark, and now they're just charging a flat $1.37 per employee, which that's changed.
Who owns the PBM we use?
Caremark. Caremark's the PBM. For example, you have on your card, if you look in the back of your card, there's a Caremark, and Caremark's the PBM. And that's where Wellmark negotiates the discounts on the prescriptions, and that's how they get those discounts.
So just with them?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
You know, they prior to that, they were with Catamaran, prior to that, and then prior to that, they were Express Script, prior to that, it's a negotiated thing about for 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 years, they negotiate that every year. So they go in and negotiate that next year they'll go back to Caremark and negotiate the price. Well, then they'll go out to the other ones and see if they can get a bigger discount for the benefit of the city or for whoever. But that's the one that Wellmark uses now exclusively for all their groups.
But don't they own them?
No, do not.
Sure.
I'm
No,
positive.
I understand they do. But anyway, that's okay.
No.
Okay, thanks.
They did have one that did, but this one they don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's probably where I got it.
Yeah, okay. The next one, we go down the network access fee, that did not change. That's where you get the discount. That's the classic blue. So like I said, when your employees go to the hospital, the doctor's office, there's a set charge that the doctor can't charge above and beyond. If the charge is for $100 and they negotiated 50, that's the charge you get. That's what you're paying the $6.95 for. So the cost and the administration cost went up approximately $6,000 this year. Now the reinsurance. The reinsurance is broken down into 2 categories. One is a specific premium. Right now you have a $40,000 specific level, as I indicated to you before. So any claim under $40,000 is the city's risk. Okay, anything above that is the insurance companies. All right. Now, and then there's the aggregate insurance. So any claims under the 40,000 is then put into a pool, and anything above and beyond 125 the expected claims, then if it goes beyond that, then that's what you bought that insurance for, to get reimbursed back. And you haven't had any of those for, I don't even know if you've had one in the last 10 years. Can I remember? Now, the premiums on that, the annual fixed cost was $274 for those 2 combined for 2000, the 15-16 year. As you note here, that we have now increased the specific level from 40 to 45,000. All right. Now, before we go any farther, we want to let you know that the specific premium for 2015, the 16 renewal, July 1st, went from $247,741 to $260,286. It went up about $13,000. All right. But Mike and Amy and I looked at the numbers, and if you move to a $45,000 specific, you'll see that the premium is going to be $236. So that's a difference of about $11,000 from where you were, plus it would have went up $13,000. So you're saving about $24,000 by going to a $45,000 specific. Now the first thing everybody's going to ask is, okay, what kind of risk are we taking on if we do that? Well, obviously you're going to go from a 40 to a 45, so you're taking on $5,000 more risk per claim. All right? So the next question you ask is, how often has that ever happened to the city? Has that ever happened? Well, I went back, we looked back at numbers, and in the 10 years that we've been doing this, that I've been doing it, it's never gone above $17,000 total. You've never had very many claims that went above from 40 to 45. And if you did, that never totaled more than $17,000. So for 10-year history, you've never had that history ever happen. Now, I could stand here and tell you that, and next year it could happen. But if you have historic numbers and take a high and low, you're going to have I've always said this, you're going to have a bad year, a really bad year, and you're going to have a really good year. And in between that is where you come out ahead on these. So I will stand here and say those are what's happened 10 years, but next year I may be standing back here and go, oh, we made the wrong decision. But you gotta patient yourself and go down the path. So I personally am in agreement with what is being proposed here. Okay, any questions on how that works? Anybody?
Yeah. I'm thinking it's a good idea. I mean, you could make the argument, it hasn't happened in 10 years. One side would say, well, that means you're due.
That's
The
it.
other side would say, no, that means there's another year coming.
Yeah.
It's gonna be just fine. So I think it's a good way to go.
Since 2005, we've never, $17,200 is the most you've ever had. So it's, I mean, one year was 10, 5, 15, 5, 5, 7, 5, 10, 5, 17, 2, 5, and 2.9. So I think that's almost a, I don't know, I think it's a good decision to make. Any questions on that? So if you add in then you get to the aggregate. Now they're projecting that your claims, annual claims, if you take the number there where it says annual aggregate factors for the two plans put together, it says last year was 710. Now with a $45,000 specific, remember, now you've got more claims that could go underneath the 45. So that number would automatically go up. Everybody goes, well, why would that go up? Well, it has to go up because you're going from a 40 to 45 because you've got more liability below that 45 versus 40, okay? So that number is going to go up from 710 to 769, about 8.3%. But those are claims. That's claims or claims. It's not fixed costs, it's whatever the claims are going to be. So if you take your fixed cost and your annual attachment maximum cost that they're projecting it to be, maximum, if you take this, and probably another way to equate it, if we were standing here in front of it and said, I'm giving you a fully insured rate, your rates went up 5.5%. I mean, that'd be a good way to, fully insured, you probably have to add another 5% to that, possibly, the max. But because it's self-funded, the maximum exposure and so forth is 5.5. And if I were to deliver 5.5 renewals to all my groups this year, we'd be having a Merry Christmas, because it's not happening right now. And I know some of you probably have employers and see their health plans are going up, and it's happening. So now keep in mind that your plan is grandfathered. So we're still in compliance with the prior ACA plan. So we try to keep, so anytime we've talked about that too, and tried to keep that in line too. We haven't been pushed to that. A lot of employers will see, a 15 or 20% increase like this. Well, they'll turn around and says, what we got to do? I said, you're going to have to go to an ACA plan, and then you got to start putting in preventives and things that would cost the city more money. So it's one right now. It's a good thing to have. So, any questions on the renewal?
So did we do any scenarios to look, just for the exercise, how we could have not had the 5.5% increase?
Well, Tom, what you run into is, because of the increase, if you'd had a 25%, I would definitely say it's time to, your marketing is not there yet, meaning your increases aren't so substantial that you could have made that at zero, okay? Because what happens is if you were to switch to, let's just take Aetna as an example.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean switch companies. Within the company, look at what we're giving to make a difference. That's what we do in our company,
Right.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to do with union negotiations. So when the new union negotiations come up, which is how many, 2 years, 1 year coming up?
This year.
Would be when, at that point in time, then we would turn around and say, if you tweak this is what happened to your experience. For example, increase your deductible. I mean, I want to compliment the city. I mean, this is a rich plan. I mean, you got a $450 out-of-pocket maximum. That's just deductible. I mean, that's just.
Well, at least you didn't tell us like you did the county that it's a gold Cadillac plan.
Well, you're close
That
to
was
it.
last year.
You're close to it.
Well, I know.
You're close. Now, that brings up another issue. People say, well, what's this Cadillac tax doing? That's another thing. Now, remember, that got put up to 2020. What we're doing is we're monitoring all our plans to make sure that you're on track. So if you would take your current funded, what your claims are, and your premium, and what you charge your COBRA people, and you trend that out and add 10% to it, you're still not affected by the Cadillac tax yet. So unless we have a significant increase in premiums in the next 3, 4, 5 years, then you're probably not, the Cadillac tax isn't even come into play yet. It's the single premium. It's a single cost. Cause that's 10,100 and some, and the family's 27,000, so you're not there yet. So, the answer to your question is, yeah, you kinda have a Cadillac plan, but does that mean you're gonna be affected by the Cadillac tax? The Cadillac tax really has nothing to do with the kind of plan you have, it's how it's outcome and what the real cost is to your employees and what you're paying. Okay?
Yep.
And again, maybe I'll interject a little bit about, you asked about, and I know I was gonna say it, but as far as marketing to another carrier, you know, Aetna's would be an option, Coventry,
5.5%.
yeah, right, so.
That's just another game. They drop it to get in and then it goes out.
Yeah, sometimes just shopping brings the rate down a little bit too. Sometimes it does. I will say this, Tom. A group your size, though, 50 to 60 employees, it doesn't have the effect as somebody that would have 1,000 or 150 employees and so forth. You have a little bit more bite in the game. It's not as much because of the size of the risk you're taking on with the carrier. So.
Any other questions or comments for Brad? Okay. Anything else?
I've got the history let's see, Steve, one of the things, because you may be new on there is a history in this page here. It kind of shows you what's happened with the premiums in the past. And that
I
would
have a
be,
question, I'm not sure it's for you or for Mike. So you have the 5% increase or whatever, your 5.5%. What's the reference in the fourth paragraph in your first letter that says it's going from 483 to 1162 to 750 to 1875? What is that reference to? On the front page of this, the fourth paragraph.
Carrier limit.
Well, yeah, I'm confused, I guess, as to,
So that's basically what we charge ourselves.
Right.
that's what I thought after I read it, because I'm thinking, wow, that's a 55 and a 61% increase.
Right, but we don't actually charge ourselves the full
No.
cost of it.
That's kind of the recommended, if we were to see actual or
When we get
actualized
their
costs.
paychecks or whatever,
Right.
that's
Well,
what-
if it was actual, I see, because we're self-insured
right,
and we're paying it out, when you look at these numbers, we're seeing, hopefully in a good year, 65 to 70% of those claims.
okay.
So that helps to keep our costs down,
Sure.
because that money just goes into our fund balance. So we're at the 483 versus the 1162, we're able to maintain a healthy fund balance, we wanna charge that and keep the rates down. That's kind of what it's a recommended, but that's if we,
you have recommended, and then you look at two things. One is the budget, and then you look at what you got sitting over here still in your reserves, if you may call it that. And Steve, in the past, the history's been really good. There's some reserves sitting over here that need to be used, and that's one of the reasons that Amy and Mike have kept it lower than what we recommended, because there is some reserves over here, and you're below. You're not sitting at the maximum claims factor. You're sitting right now. I don't even remember, what was it, 70-some% we were at right now.
right. And it,
So you charge the 43 and 1162, I guess my confusion is what's the suggested premium? What is that number? So you're charging the departments 43% and 1162 per family, correct?
no, the suggested then are the 750 and the 1875.
What does that mean? That this year they're gonna be charged those numbers?
No, that's just what's suggested if we have like 100% actual cost.
Right.
But we are hoping to have between 65 and 70%.
Right.
But we also realize that if we go higher than that, we will be using some of our fund balance.
All
But
right,
our
I
fund
understand.
balance is healthy.
Okay.
So what we've tried to do is keep it that 483, and there's no reason to increase it right now with
Sure.
the way our fund balance is.
Sure.
So we keep it at that 483, because we don't wanna keep raising the fund balance.
Right.
And then we're also, we've stayed there since
Well, you're
FY 2000.
Taxpayers' money.
So. But now, if we see 100% versus a 65 or 70, then we realize we are gonna be using that fund balance. And next year, we'll be having a different conversation, and we will try to be going closer to the suggested, could be. But that would have to be a really bad year. We've seen bad years, and it hasn't been that much in the fund balance.
Great, thank you.
Right now, I think we said 70. Right now, your claims are sitting at projected, you got a maximum cost they projected, and then they got where it's at 77% of that maximum. So that number that we're showing here on this page here is the maximum, and they've come down.
And I think the other thing we've seen over the last couple of years is our discounts are larger.
Yeah, that was.
So that's helping our fund balance as well, versus when we were with First Administrators and had a different network, we weren't seeing the discounts, so even though claims keep going up, we're seeing better discounts right now. So that's helping the fund balance, so we can maintain the lower premium that we charge to each department.
Yeah, the discount on the claims right now for the Classic Blues, as of March 31st, 44% from Wellmark.
So long as it works, then we're okay. If it didn't work, I went to the max, and we have to amend the budget, then
Well,
we
we'd
don't
be
have that.
flooding a bunch of money into where we already have reserves.
Yeah.
So if you take it out of the reserve, we don't have to change the budget.
Yeah, and it's not really budgeted anyway.
Yeah, we do budget that because that's what we use, because we figure out how many people are in the police department and we charge that to the police, fire, same way. And so we do levy that as benefits in the general fund. So if we budgeted this fuller amount, our
Property taxes would
So
go.
the
Property
fund balance
taxes
is
would
the
go
cushion
up.
Which gets us
Right.
through it, like you said, as long as we have another average or better year, we're okay. Or, like you said, we'll have another discussion.
Right, and I would say we're conservative on this too, you know, we don't wanna be in a situation where we do have to raise it a lot again, because it would affect the tax levy on the benefits.
You made a statement that this is relatively generous to things comparatively to others you work with. Did I hear that correctly?
The health plan is very generous.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, that's really generous.
okay.
But, you know, a lot of it's dictated by what's agreed by the union contract and that kind of thing. So if you get into unions, it's kind of in line with that, but I will say that their premiums are higher and they don't have the reserves, like you have excess reserves. So, I mean, you're in a better spot than a lot of employers that are self-funded. Most of them rates aren't as good. They may have just as good a plan, but they don't have the reserves. So you got two things battling them. They don't have this in this left hand, and their rates are going up, and their claims are going up. So you're in a good spot right now.
And one of the things that I point out is, you know, despite single being fully covered by the city and family being 5% contribution from the employee, if we increase those to a limit that maybe would be more in line with what Brad sees across his different clients, we would lose our grandfather status. And that was something that this council or previous council had talked about heavily before we agreed to the last union contract and the existing premium levels.
Well, we were headed that way until we learned that it would affect it, what you said.
Correct, I think there was an intent, but again, for years and years, there had been zero contribution from employee groups or employees at all. And so it increased from 0 to 2.5 for family and then up to 5, and then that's where it was capped, and there was a 3-year deal going.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Brad. Do we have a motion to supporting the resolution and adopting the insurance programs for the next year? Roll call, please.
Moore? Yes. Versteg?
Yes.
Walling?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Jimenez?
Yes.
Okay, and that passes. Item B is to consider a resolution amending and certifying the fiscal year 2016 budget amendment. This is the time for a public hearing on the amending and certifying the fiscal year 2016 budget amendment. This resolution amends the total revenue to $33,248,115, which is an increase of $3,549,000. Expenses to $33,577,819, which is an increase of $3,470,500. The ending balance has now increased $78,500 to a balance of $11,485,051. Changes are needed due to the issuance of the not to exceed $1.8 million general obligation refunding capital loan notes, series 2016A. and the calling of the general obligation capital loan notes series 2008A. This amendment is required in order for the city to realize approximately $156,000 in savings and still make all the scheduled debt service payments while not exceeding the legally adopted budget for the fiscal year. So I'll open the public hearing at this time. Does anyone care to speak to it? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion supporting the certification of the fiscal year 2016 budget amendment?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Do I understand it correctly, and I really should have asked earlier tonight, but in the consent agenda, we had that in there, and this has to do with what we approved in the consent agenda for the GO bonds.
Correct, so
Right.
all associated with the refinancing.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, you're right, consent agenda on the bonds, but this dresses up the budget.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, so we have a motion, a second, any further discussion? Roll call please.
Versteeg,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Moore,
Okay, that passes. Item 6C, this is consider resolution approving the abatement of city assessments on property. This one located at 115 Fifth Avenue West, where the city has taken title as abandoned property and repaying amounts previously paid by a tax certificate holder as required by law. So pursuant to Iowa Code, section 657.10A of 2015, the city has taken title to a residential property located at 115 Fifth Avenue West as abandoned property. The award to title to the city by virtue of the court decree awards the title free and clear of any claims, liens, or encumbrances. The city holds liens against the premises for unpaid lien assessments having to do with weed cutting. So there's, for the 2015-16 years, one for $250, one for $300, another one for $350. And so for the city to take title free and clear of any assessment or liens for resale, the city has to waive those assessments and abate the liens. And additionally, the property was sold for taxes, and by Iowa law, the tax certificate holder is required to be repaid for the amounts previously paid to the city for weed cutting. So we have in the 2012 through 13 years, $282 plus $336 plus $329, and in the 2013-14 year, weed cutting $279 plus a penalty of $8. So anyway, staff has recommended the adoption of a resolution waiving the listed assessments for weed cutting on the parcel and authorizing the repayment of the prior paid assessments as required by law. Do we have a motion supporting that?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Is there a quicker way of getting these properties like this? This thing has been bad for several years.
The only quicker way, Aaron, really would be, of course, if the owner would voluntarily deed it over to the city, as a number of them do, quite frankly. If the property comes in, when we're doing that, then the city's stuck with things. But a lot of times they're not agreeable to deeding over. When they are, there's some of those kind of like the property that up on 610 North Sea where they had the fire the other day. There have been some offers just to turn that over to the city right now. Then it becomes the city's baby to try to deal with one of those things.
Wouldn't that be cheaper in the long run, what you're doing here though? Did we ever check with this owner to see if he would deed this property over to us?
The problem with this particular property is, number one, yes, this was Bob Cook's old list. Bob was agreeable to deeding this over to the city. The problem was there was another mortgage on the property out there, so if we took it on deed, we would take it subject to that mortgage. And by taking title this way as abandoned property, that's part of what this is doing here in the city. The court awards it free and clear of any liens and encumbrances, which means that prior mortgage gets wiped out.
But under this code section, which reads in the Iowa State Code, the property has to be abandoned for 6 months, I believe.
Yeah, there's a time period that has to be abandoned, and you get
Without
into some
utilities.
things without utilities, if it helps if they've not been paying taxes and things like that. It's kind of the same thing went through that old Palacios property at 702,
3 or 2, yeah.
something like that, the one north of where Dan Coulon used to live across the.
We were told just because they don't have utilities hooked up, that doesn't mean it's abandoned.
That is one of the factors, that's not the automatic.
Okay, that's too bad.
Any other comments or questions?
Mayor and Council, I did want to make a note that Based on the previous discussions we had with the two properties on the avenue, which were 717 and 603, we are going to take the steps to advertise bids and accept sealed bids on the property, rather than potentially working with neighboring owners or people who might have an interest in it. So I just want to give you a heads up, that's how we're proceeding.
And we have had some prior expression of interest in this property, and then on the other one, that's 600 something Fifth Avenue West down the same street. We've had some expression of interest in those, so we know there's some people out there. Oh, I'm sure they are. Yeah, this place, I went out there when we posted this originally and did it, it was sitting open, the doors were wide open, I wandered through and I posted it, and it was,
This is the property we had some trouble with, right? Well,
I think we had some difficulties here.
you've been in that house, haven't you, Jake?
Yes, and the fire department.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Walling,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Moore, Versteeg,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Next is to consider a resolution approving the abatement of city assessments on property located at 612 Fifth Avenue West. This is where the city has taken title as abandoned property. Reading pretty much the same as the previous property, we'd be waiving $250 of weed cutting in the 2015-16 year, another $300 in the same year, and then also another one for $175. So do we have a motion supporting this?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Moore, Versteeg,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item E, this is to consider a resolution approving the conditional abatement of city assessments on property located at 703 A Avenue East, where the city has filed to title as abandoned property. And so this is more of the same. The city may not hold liens against premises for any unpaid assessments from prior proceedings against the property. And so, do we have a motion to waive these? Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Calgery,
Yes.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Moore, Versteeg,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Good for the regular agenda. Reports from city staff. City manager, anything?
Mayor, related to the previous items, I just want to make a note that the pictures that were included in the council packet were from 2013. So these properties may look a little bit different today. So again, I want to make sure that everybody understands they are in pretty bad shape. In addition, we have at least 6 active cases against property owners that we've either received judgment against the house or we're going to seek judgment against the property owners who have a house demolished or acquired. In almost nearly every instance, we try to get the property owner to rectify the situation themselves before asking the taxpayers to bear that burden. Obviously, having a property that's dilapidated sitting next to your house, there's a cost associated with that. So I think that's kind of that balancing act, is at what point does the city step in? We've tried to be as aggressive as we can with this, but not necessarily spend a lot of funds in the process. Obviously, with the adoption of the fiscal year 17 budget, there's $25,000 put aside for nuisance abatement, demolition of houses, and those funds could be used to bring down some of these properties if the property owners don't do that on their own. In addition to those 6 properties, there's another 6 that we've handled, and this is just off notes that I've had. I'm sure there are actually more. Another 6 that we've either flipped over to Habitat, have either been condemned for years and are finally down on the ground level and are being rebuilt. We've sold the 2 on A that were dilapidated and or to be fixed up and one to be demolished. I did not include the additional 2 on A Avenue that we purchased in our demo ourselves. So I don't always do a good job of expressing the amount of work that our staff and our team put towards demolition of dilapidated properties. There's more to come. It's a lot of work for the city attorney and the building official to get these through the system. But we do actively pursue properties to try to get some of those bad ones cleaned up. And we know we have more work to do. So just the idea that these don't necessarily come in front of you is something that I want to change. We talked about, the city attorney and I talked about trying to bring you more into the loop as far as some of these 657A demolitions and acquisitions, so that you can see that we're actively pursuing some of the troublesome properties.
I commend you. I'd hug you if I wasn't on the video right now.
Well, again, it's not
It's a great thing, so,
Our team's doing a good job.
I think you're right, that market, we talked about this before, that we can market to our community better to show them, whether it's on our website or whatever, that there are efforts being made to clean up the community. I mean, I think it's an outstanding thing, and I think the only thing we can do better is to brag about it a little bit, so.
I agree, I think we're doing a great job, it's just like where the fire was, the staff went in and made it at least safe. I mean, those kind of things, but I hear a lot of talk, positive talk, which is we all like to hear, about, you know, people are realizing that a lot of places are disappearing and look better, so I think it is. And yet it's hard to understand how slow sometimes it takes and time, but.
We try to give the property owners as much of an opportunity as they possibly can to rectify it themselves.
Very good. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Eden?
No, sir.
Okay. City attorney, anything?
Nothing, thank you, sir.
Okay. City council member Steve, anything?
I just want to take the opportunity to make the announcement that it's that time of year when folks need to mow their yards, because if it gets over 12 inches high, we'll form, and it costs them a minimum of $250 if I'm not mistaken. And I just assume that not come here, because I saw it in the paper the other day, that's what makes me say it, and I sat in a meeting last year where it did come a couple of times in council, and everybody just needs to understand, mow your yard, because otherwise somebody's gonna do it for you. It's a lot cheaper to do it yourself, or hire somebody to do it, so. Just thought I'd put it out there for a public announcement.
Okay.
Two things, I'd like to remind everybody to vote, the 1 cent sales tax tomorrow. We need that, it's a good thing, we've done good things with it before, we'll do good things with it again. And I'm not sure where we need to go with this, with some kind of work session. I'm willing to help, I think Aaron's willing to help on these codes, and I keep using the word common sense, but I'd like to look at it harder to see what we can do. You know, I don't know where we get started, the book's thick, you know, but maybe one at a time as it comes up, try to review those and see if there are some improvements. And we would need Achilles' expertise muchly in that, you know, to what we can do and not get in trouble by doing it, I guess is what I'll say. So I don't know what you can do with that, Mayor.
We'll see.
Okay.
Well, just to expand on that a little bit, there, you know, Keelish and staff are just following what's
That's
in the
right.
book. They're not really, you know, being critical about anything, but we need to go over it, you're right, and it's not very user friendly, which I've said a million times up here, so. Yeah, maybe we do need to look at some as they come up, I don't know where you start on that, but go through the whole darn thing, you know, well, it's yours, so, yeah, you're right, you need to look at some stuff.
You know something?
No, I'd just like to echo what Tom did say. I do think we need to have something, whether it's a work session or something on the next agenda, where we at least discuss some of these codes. You get up and down, I don't know where to start either.
There's a lot of codes there. Okay, we can have a conversation about maybe how we wanna approach that. Joe, anything?
There's just a couple of things I just did off what these gentlemen just said about the codes. Yes, we do need to look at those, and I do have a way of how we can look at those. Since my other job, I do a lot of that, and reviewing standards and whatnot, and there's a process on how to do that, and that was pretty easy. So there's you look at the whole book at one, you just take a section, and just review those. I'll be more willing to do that. The other thing to do, what Mike said, about housing's coming, homes coming down, we got a meeting this Thursday, I think. hopefully, house the trust fund. But it's still,
Yes.
and I think you got like 3 demo requests
Yes.
for more houses.
Very good. Very good. Anything else? Okay. The only thing I wanted to mention, you should have received an email from me, council members, that there is a request to do the city manager's performance review, after the meeting we have on the 16th of May. So attached to that email is the review form. In the event that, that doesn't work for you, I've got some hard copies as well. So if you want the plain old paper and pencil version, I can work with that. Same form as what we've used in the past. So, okay, with that, we got nothing else, we have a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.